Hi, I'm Chris Nix, talking for Prometheus Unlimited. I got some really weird stuff to go over with you guys here today. I made a little thing to help me along here. First off, we have the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. This is like 1,400 professionals who could be considered, the best of their field, and they all came together with a huge conference to talk about sciencey stuff, and they came to the conclusion that the given explanation for how the Twin Towers and Building 7 went down needs to be reviewed. And PBS in Colorado Public Television recently put out a documentary which was immediately pulled from TV airing but can still be seen on YouTube. It's all about the Architects for Engineers for 9/11 Truth topic of trying to scientifically break down what was going on there, and what people found, what people heard, what they can actually prove today. Some of the more interesting things is they found something new in the wreckage called, I think it's like nanothermite, which is a special kind of thermite which nobody knew about before, which is actually thermite that instead of just being mixed was produced together chemically, like from the ground up. So that's kind of out there. They talk about flying over the wreckage areas with helicopters that had heat sensing cameras, and they find these large pools of molten steel hotspots in all the wreckage, and that points to something other than a building collapse. Of course, the use of thermite, which turns steel into liquid. That can be further proven by the fact that within the New York dust, as some people call it, there after the buildings fell, there was tons of pulverized concrete, and just everything that the World Trade Center was eviscerated into nothing. And what they were finding on the extremely small scale were these steel pellets that were perfectly circular, and apparently what causes this is when the steel either turns into liquid in an explosion or turns into gas. I'm not really clear on that, but either way, it does not happen when a building falls down. So that's pretty interesting. This man, Fernando Impacimato, is the president of the Italian Supreme Court and has recently came out publicly calling for an international 9/11 inquiry, which I can only assume they would want that to be an independent nation, bias of any speculation as to whether anybody did it. They're not trying to figure out who did it, who done it, just what happened, because currently it's still unexplained how the only three super skyscrapers ever that have fallen down completely in the history of skyscrapers getting set on fire is the three that fell on September 11th. So that gets kind of crazy. And now, if you try to search for this Fernando Impacimato right now on Google or something, what you're going to see is the net is currently flooded with accusations of him in sex acts with 17-year-old girls, and just, the standard run of CIA tactics to distract the public from what's really going on. What's that? Somebody's asking for the truth? Obviously, he's a freaking diddler, right? Of course he is. Now, another thing I want to talk about is two things that are really getting a ton of media coverage right now. First is the Innocence of Muslims, which is the film which has caused the attacks in Libya on the U.S. ambassadors. I believe the number is 3 or 4 confirmed kills so far of U.S. embassy. The man who made that, Nikula or Sam Basil, it's hard to really know who he is because he has a history of using multiple identities extremely well, which is once again a tactic of the CIA. He is, I believe he's an Egyptian man who is currently living in California. He has so many identities that he has been slipping up, telling different people different info. He started to slip up, giving the wrong age to different people. He is actually now trying to claim that Sam Basil is a different person, and that's the actual writer and director of the movie. But in other times, he takes credit for the whole thing himself. He has claimed that the movie cost $5 million to make, but a full version cannot be found. The only thing that can be found is a 15-minute trailer of extremely poor quality. Some of the actors who were in the movie have come out and said that they had no idea how incredibly horrible the movie really was, because some of the more outrageous statements were dubbed quite horribly, I may add, over the original sound. So what you have is a movie that came out with just the perfect timing to take media attention away from this man up to Muslims in the Middle East. Because, we don't want people talking about the truth. We want to talk about, the terrorizers in the Middle East and how they're causing problems. That's all the American media wants to show. And I don't even know how this terrible video really got so much publicity, but it got big super fast. Apparently, everyone in the Middle East has seen it or heard about it, and they're all freaking pissed. Another thing that I saw is in Cairo recently. I believe it was Fox was giving tons of media coverage to Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda apparently climbed the U.S. Embassy in Cairo, tore down the American flag, replaced it with a black flag. It has a white circular piece in the middle and some text around it. It's being called the Al-Qaeda flag, or also the Islamist flag. So it's pretty ambiguous as to whether or not it's Islam's or, Al-Qaeda, the terrorist network, who are doing this. But they did stop long enough to take a photo op moment in front of the word prophet, spelled in English with spray paint on the wall behind them. 4 men who were wearing Guy Fawkes masks took a photo op in front of the prophet thing. Apparently they were the Al-Qaeda members. And no part of this story makes any sense at all. If you were to believe the Al-Qaeda ideal, they are supposed to be a group of terrorists who, operate out of the shadows. I don't know of any other time where any terrorist organization has climbed the U.S. Embassy for no other reason than to put up their flag and say, hey, us guys who are hiding out and have, absolutely no weaponry compared to all of the major armed forces in the world, this is where we're at, don't come explode us or anything. If this was real, they would have all been killed with U.S. drone strikes, during the photo, say cheese, click, boom! Drone strike, over. But instead, they got tons and tons of media coverage, and none of it makes any sense. And then we get stories that protesters in Egypt are actually admitting they were paid to be there, which ties back with the way we've been seeing the protests of late. Like in the Occupy movement, they had undercover police officers who would go in, act like they're protesters, and while people are peacefully protesting, what these undercover agents are doing, and that's what they are, is undercover agents, they are trying to escalate the protest because they want to take it out of something that's legal and honorable and democratic, and they want to turn these American heroes who are exercising their rights into, of course, criminals. Because anybody who doesn't take the mass media's perspective on things, that's what we are criminals. We have the Libyan president has told NBC foreigners involved in U.S. consulate attack. CIA. I'm Chris Nix. Thanks for listening.